Our issues, our voices, our views. This is Politics in Black. What's happening, family? We are back and we are live in the new year for another episode, another broadcast of Politics in Black. Brought to you once again by the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, NAASD-LA. Go ahead, Friday. Happy New Year.
I understand the enthusiasm because as reparationists, we have had an incredible
week. This has been a winning week.
With AB 3121 and Dr. Weber and her reaffirmation of what we already knew, and so we are here for it.
We are definitely here for it. Fam, thank you for coming back. Thank you for sticking with us. We're back fresh and brand new for 2022, and we're going to do this again, right? We're going to do it one more time. And so first, before we get started, if you missed all the 21, you missed all the 20, you don't know who we are, and you wonder why we're so excited, my name is Chad Brown. I'm only one half of the hosting team. I'm sitting next to her. Like I said, she's fresh and brand new for 22. Miss Friday Jones. Friday, just say what's up.
What's up, everybody? Look, we have a full show today. It's a little somber. These are stories I think that are close to our hearts that we've been following for a while, for decades. And the unfortunate reality is what we're going to be sharing here today almost indicates that in terms of the judicial system, it is failing.
It is definitely failing us.
Yeah.
It is definitely failing us. We are not getting justice.
Yeah.
And just as much as we talk about slavery has never ended, the violence against us has never ended. The lynching has never ended. The lynching of black people has never ended. So we wanted to come today and we wanted to talk about it. We wanted to have this conversation with the family and talk about how we are not seeing justice and what can we do to change these things. Because one of the things that happened this week, that on top of everything else that happened, is I was listening to Dr. Claude Anderson, and we continue to play for Dr. Anderson's health as well. But Dr. Claude Anderson, he laid out what he believes Black America needs to pursue right now in this moment. And at the top of his list was, we need to demand to be a protected class.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah. So we need to talk about why we need to demand to be a protected class.
If we were some spider, we would be.
Say it again.
Honestly, if we were some random insect, some little marsupial.
That's right.
Some fish somewhere that disappeared, or we would be.
That's right.
But this is America.
That's right. And we still Black. That's right. So before we get into it, fam, as I always say, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you know when we're coming on. We was a little late today. We be on CPT sometimes. So hit the bell so you know for sure, right? Hit the Cashapp, hit the Venmo, NAASD-LA, or hit the Super Chat while we're live here. We appreciate your support. So first on this show, A Cry for Justice.
A Cry for Justice.
We're going to bring in some representatives from the Emmett Till Justice for Families Foundation in Mississippi. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to tell a personal story.
Tell it.
I went home. I was in Jackson over the holidays. I went home. And I wanted to take my children, I want to take my daughters out and see kind of their roots and where they came from. And so we were driving around the Georgetown neighborhood in Jackson where my mother grew up and where I spent a lot of time. My first job was in Georgetown, sweeping up for like 50 cents back in a juke joint. But that's another story. But anyway, we're driving around Georgetown, kind of, just seeing the neighborhood. And for those that don't know Jackson and Georgetown, it is the place where Black folks were in the early 1900s, where you were able to own a home and you thought you were getting a piece of that American dream. But what happened is Georgetown today looks very much like Georgetown in the early 1900s. It's frozen in time, and the Black folks there have been robbed of any opportunity to leverage their properties into other properties, into accumulating wealth, and into anything that could be good for that community or resources for that community. So it is in disrepair, it is in disarray. But we're driving around Georgetown and a car pulls up on us. And sitting in the back of the car was a woman, and she leans out, she said, "Hey, y'all from around here?" And of course, I'm from around there. So I told her, "Yeah, we from around here. My mother grew up right back here, right on the corner." And she said, "Oh, well, come on over to our spot. We Emmett Till's family." I almost fell out the car. Right, because we driving around. I'm trying to show my children. We had just left the Medgar Evers house because I wanted to show them that. And here is Emmett Till's family just rolls up on us on a random. So I sat and chopped it up with them on their patio for, what seemed like hours. But we had a great time and new additions to my family, my extended family. And I wanted to bring them here to share with you this other extended family so you can hear some of what they were telling me, because it was blowing my mind. So that's the quick background of how we got here.
And that's how you know God is about this life.
That's how I know God is in this.
God is for us.
The ancestors are marching. The
Yes.
ancestors are in this. I have no doubt about it, because it brought us together with our first guest here. So without any further delay, I want to bring in Priscilla Sterling. And so Priscilla Sterling co-founded the Emmett Till Justice for Families Foundation in Mississippi. She is an assistant teacher at Lanier High School, what up 833, in Jackson, Mississippi, and a health worker in the Georgetown community. Ms. Sterling is a graduate of Lanier High School, once again, what up 833, and Belhaven University. Also, Ms. Sterling is a blood relative of Mamie and Emmett Till. Coming to appear alongside Priscilla Sterling is Daryl Gibson. And Mr. Gibson is a graduate of Tennessee State and also a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. So thank you for your service, sir. He is currently a retired municipal worker from the city of Chicago. Mr. Gibson has been a political and social activist most of his life, and today he's here to share with us some of the research that he's done and some of the new data that he's uncovered in the Emmett Till case that we haven't heard. I don't think anybody has heard before. So thank you both for being here. Thank you both for giving us this time on Sunday to come speak to us on Politics in Black.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to the show.
We're definitely glad to be here.
Absolutely.
God is good.
God is good all the time.
Always.
All the time. So Priscilla, I'm gonna start with you because you the newest addition to my family, right? So you're family now. And we sat and we talked and you shared some stuff with us, but I just want to start by you telling the folks who you are, how you are related to the Till family, and kind of take us into the fight that you've been engaged in for the past few years.
Like he said, I'm Priscilla Sterling from Jackson, Mississippi, kid from Lanier High School.
833.
Graduate of Belhaven University, also Jackson State University. And my granddaddy's mother is Ellenell Smith, who's related to Mamie's granddad, Robert Smith. And from the history of growing up, I was always this hunky-dory type of girl, not, we grew up not really talking about lynchings and what happened in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Even throughout life of growing up, my best friends were white because we were integrated into a white school here in Sykes Elementary in South Jackson. Then we grew up until I experienced my own racial experience. That's what got me heavily involved with the lynching cases in the state of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. I was told at employment at one of my jobs that I would be hanged with a rope from a tree with a hood on. And from there, I was fired.
Yeah.
And it shocked me because really and truly, although Mamie was here, every year we were doing our family reunions. Mm-hmm. I just figured that what happened to Emmett and we younger kids, that happened way back then. That stuff doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
And I was in for a rude awakening. Back while I was at Mamie's funeral, there was this young boy, Nick Naylor. Down in Porterville, Mississippi, that was found hung. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And once I had come from Mamie's funeral, I got on the ground running with a group of people that I know, took pictures and got his story out.
Yeah.
And it actually, they ruled it as a suicide.
Yeah.
And that's an issue that I have and my family have. That's the reason why we created the Emmett Till Justice for Families Foundation.
Absolutely.
To create oversight committees to deal with crimes of racial injustice. Yeah, and then from Nick Naylor's death, this is the 21st century. You have Renard Johnson, Nick Naylor, Roy Veal, Billy Joe Johnson, Otis Bird, Philip Carroll, DeAndre Hopkins, Freddie Jermaine Carter. These are young men that have been hung in Mississippi since the 21st century.
I'm glad you brought that up, Priscilla, because you actually shared with me a graphic, and if we could throw that graphic up real quick, just so folks could see some faces to put with some of those names that you were just putting out. Because I agree with you. This is an epidemic that's happening in Mississippi and around the country that no one's talking about.
No one's talking about it. And
it's time for people to wake up.
Yeah.
And it's happened here in our hometown or home state, I should say, of California, and it happened like yards from a police department. And like in terms of things that we do, like that's not something we do.
Yeah, no.
And that was in 2020.
Yeah,
that case was in 2020 where four black men were found hung out there.
Yeah. So I wanna let's back up because we want to talk about that absolutely, but let's stick on Emmett and the Till case. And Daryl, I'm gonna come to you real quick because I know you've been doing some research around this. So if you would just start by just quickly introducing yourself, letting folks know how you got involved in the Emmett Till case, and then some of the findings that you have come across.
Yes, absolutely, and thank you guys, and I really appreciate the chance to talk. When I transitioned out of the Marine Corps from Cherry Point, North Carolina, we moved back to Chicago, Illinois. And, I was living in, my family, we were living, small family, young family, we were living in the basement of my mom's house in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. And, you had to attend church. And so the church we attended was the Evangelistic Crusaders Church of God in Christ. And, we just church members. My mom was on the motherboard. My aunt cooked in the church kitchen. And it just so happened, Emmett Till Mobley went to that church also. Okay. But, as a young person, I really didn't care too much about the history until my daughter, we were watching a movie at home when we moved out of my mom's house, and she just casually asked me who was my mother's grandmother. Mm-hmm. And I just got on the phone and said, "Hey, Mom, who was your mom's grandmother?" And she couldn't really tell me. And so I started my genealogy research, and it led me to Money, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so my family were living on a plantation that's now a historically recognized plantation in 2013 by the name of the Wildwood Plantation and Commissary Shop. And so I started to research my great-grandmother, but it was very difficult to find her. Mm-hmm. But what I did find was my great-grandfather, who was a white, wealthy planter who happened to own the whole town of Money, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so what I did find out is he had a liking, according to my mom, he had a liking or a relationship with my great-grandmother. Mm-hmm. And so you know how the story goes. He had children. This white, wealthy planter had children by my great-grandmother, who was black, and the maid in their house on the plantation. Yep. So this wealthy white man could do whatever he wanted in the town of Money, Mississippi, and on the plantation of Wildwood. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so the connection kind of came to me. Okay, Money, that's where Emmett was, right? That's where he was murdered, right? And so I just kept digging and digging, and we found out a lot of connections on that, about that property. Yeah. The property was swindled. The property that Emmett was murdered on was swindled from my family, black family. Wow. So that's something that the world doesn't know, and we are ready to prove that case. Yeah. And so 2 years ago, I met Priscilla Sterling. Okay. And so we had conversations. She really didn't trust me, and so I had to try to convince her, Priscilla, I'm not trying to do anything nefarious or anything. I'm just trying to let you know that there's some issues or some before Emmett stories that connects to the people that murdered Emmett. That's right. And so by me knowing the front end of the story, I'm able to connect the dots that people haven't really paid attention to.
Let me ask you. So Daryl, it sounds like you in a way had gotten disconnected from your Southern roots a little bit.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. We didn't care about our Southern roots until my daughter asked me who was my great grandmother.
And that's such an important thing. And I don't want to take away from this story, but you know,
Right.
Chad and I are out here, but we are children of the South.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I didn't grow up in the South, but I was sent home, down home, as they used to call it, for my summertime.
And I'll be back soon.
And
but go
so, you know, we lose that interconnectivity. And I know on the most recent trip that I did to North Carolina, I experienced the same thing. I basically had the realization that everyone in that town, in one way or form, I'm related to them. We are all related because it's less than 3,000 people. It's smaller than my high school. The people been living there for years. No one comes from New York City to come move to some town, you know, this small. And so we have to maintain those connections in order to do the kind of work that you're doing. And so I just wanted to put that out there. But go ahead, sir.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And so basically, there's a Charles Merrill, the founder of Merrill Lynch. Let's just be frank and honest.
Yeah. Please.
He, and I have documents, he and his uncle, J.B. Wilson. J.B. Wilson is on my great grandfather's will. And I found him in the census as a plantation manager. And when my great grandfather died, he and his nephew, Charles Merrill, took over the plantation. Well, really swindled the plantation, you know, and took the wealth of the property and the bank accounts and everything else and made it theirs. That's how he started the Merrill Lynch Company.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But what he also did was he brought in his relatives. Now, I can't connect Charles Merrill with the Bryants and Milam, but I can connect the current owners of the property to J.W. Milam and Roy Bryant.
Gotcha.
And so no one ever asked the question, where did J.W. Milam come from? Where did Roy Bryant come from? They came from Helena, Arkansas. They were, you know, when their family, they were the chosen ones to manage the Wildwood plantation. And so it was six boys, 3 Milams and 3 Bryants. Okay. The mother's brother is the one that signed a lease agreement to run Bryant's grocery store and meat market. Okay. And so what happened was when they stole that property, it was 5,000 acres. And so the new owners, well, Charles Merrill didn't want anything to do with it. So he left it to a certain entity to manage it. And so that entity brought in, guess who? Roy Bryant's family and J.W. Milam, they're brothers. They brought them in. And they set them up, according to the FBI report, Priscilla, that we just found. They set up the Milams with businesses all over Mississippi, okay, on stolen money and stolen land.
I want to pause you right there because that's really important what you just said, because nobody has ever looked into the backgrounds of Milam and Bryant, right? We just kind of know them as the murderers of Emmett Till. Exactly. But now what you're telling us is that these connections go a lot deeper, and they had money behind them that's still, you know, it's still out here today because Merrill Lynch is
still very much alive.
Very much still alive, right? So I want to stick there for just 1 second because I think that's very important. Now, Priscilla, you were talking to me a little bit about some of the facts of the case that you wanted to bring to light, right? Some things that we might not have known, because right now I can't turn my TV on without seeing something about Emmett Till. That's the other thing, right? I want to make sure that we're also talking about some of the productions, because you initially thought I was Keith Beauchamp driving around, right? And I know Keith is working on a movie about Mamie and about Emmett. But I want to go there as well. But tell us a little bit about some of the facts of the case that you've uncovered in your research and your activism. And then I want to talk a little bit about how the family is doing and what are your thoughts on some of these productions?
Well, Dara Gibson and myself, we do a lot of research and investigative work. And once the Justice Department had come out with the closing of the Emmett Till case, we felt that it was unfair. But like I was telling you, it's strange how the Department of Justice never contacted the family of Mississippi, and it was my aunt and Anna Laura Williams, who had went to the U.S. Attorney's Office to have this case reopened in 2004. So we thought that was bizarre, and throughout the years, we were never saw or asked questions, and Mamie was here every year. We were doing our family reunions frequently, and my aunts would go and live with her.
Yeah.
So throughout the investigation, we found out through research that Carolyn Bryant was brought to court in 2007 on culpable negligence and was tried, and the grand jury no billed it. But the family had never heard that. We had never heard that Carolyn Bryant was brought to court for culpable negligence.
What does the term no bill mean? What does no bill? You said they no bill.
No bill means it's not going to go to before a jury. Yeah. It's not going to be tried. It's not going to go and be tried. And the DA very well could have brought it back to trial. And he didn't. And the craziest thing is you hear about all this news with Emmett Till, but you never heard about them bringing the case back before a grand jury. And I felt like that was done purposefully. So I honestly feel like the state of Mississippi has tried to protect Carolyn Bryant all along.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because, and you have to think about this. You had two Black boys that were stopped prior to them picking up Emmett that morning. You had two young Black males who Roy Bryant and Jay Milam stopped, questioned, beat up, and asked them and took them out to the car and asked her, was that the boy? And she said, no, Willie Hemphill. They went, beat him, threw him in the car, beat him up. And she said, no, it wasn't him. And later on that morning, Emmett was kidnapped. But for some strange reason, they took Carolyn away from that scene. Yeah. So just on the two young men that she was in their presence, and based on their testimony, she should have still been tried.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she's still living, right? So there's still a chance to hold her to account for this and for her actions in this, right? So I want to talk about that too, because the big news was that the case had been closed. But I think it was the federal. It was a federal closure, right?
The DOJ.
Department of Justice Department. Yeah.
Right. But not only that, Daryl and I discovered, by him researching with his cousins and sisters down there in the Delta, they found another witness. And Daryl can kind of relate to you all on that, but this man actually was there at the store the day that Emmett whistled. And the FBI never interviewed him.
Well, we recorded, I found this man and trying to do my genealogy. He told me everything. I don't think I ever been in Mississippi.
Oh, you gotta go.
He told me about my family with names and my great grandmother. He told me all this stuff. And the relatives of Roy Bryant gave me his phone number as a person who knows the history. Okay. Now you have to understand that the Gary family and the Bryant's family, at this point, they don't think anybody is going to find out what happened. They were successful in doing what they had to do. Yeah. Okay. But Mr. Hill is his name. He told me about my family, and me and Priscilla was talking at the time. And so she said that, well, maybe he might know something about what happened to Emmett. Why don't we get him on the phone? Right. So we got him on the phone, and she started to interrogate this man and found out that he used to work for Roy Bryant.
Oh, okay.
And think about it. If he knew about my family history in the early 1900s, from folklore stories in Money, Mississippi, it was folklore on whether the blacks were going to get the 5,000 acres or the whites. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my great grandfather tried to set it up so that his kids could get it and grandchildren can get it. And so he entangled that property really tough to where it's encumbered today. Okay. So, but getting back to Priscilla, and so Priscilla got on the phone. We asked him if we could record the conversation. He agreed. and she started asking questions about the Bryant's grocery store and Roy Bryant, and she just went on and on and on to where Mr. Hill let us know about Roy Bryant had a new truck. Roy Bryant and his brothers would always be at the Bryant's grocery store, and so on and so forth. And so we have that recorded, and so we're trying to figure out. I wonder if the FBI talked to him.
Yeah.
Did they talk to him? Because if he knew about my family and he worked for Roy Bryant, he might have some information on did they talk about whether they were in the Klan?
Yep.
Did he show them where Uncle Mose Wright's house was? We believe he did. He knew the area. He used to make deliveries for Roy Bryant. That's what he told us. He used to make deliveries to the baseball games and run odd and end errands. And he used to drive the school bus. And he knew Willa Parker, and he knew that Emmett was there too, right, Priscilla, on that day?
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't the FBI? So we called the FBI, Mr. Killinger, said, sir, did you interview Mr. Hill? You know what he told us?
What did he say?
He's 99% sure that he interviewed him, but he doesn't think he asked them the tough questions.
Oh my God. So they just checking boxes. They just checking boxes to say, oh yes, we did this. They're not actually doing the investigative work.
No.
3 weeks ago. How do you not interview Mr. Hill? He's still living.
Yeah.
He's the same age as Carolyn Bryant. We have a recording of the conversation that we had with the man. He lives, where Bryant's grocery store, he lives the closest to anyone in the town to the Bryant's grocery store. So, and he still lives there.
Yeah. And one of the things I heard you say, Daryl, too, is, these murderers were still able to accumulate wealth and pass it down.
Yes.
And that wealth has, it's grown, it's increased over time, and it's still there in Money, Mississippi. So the building, the structure, the land, all of that is still there. And so in my mind, when I'm thinking about it, that's all something that should have been passed along to the victim's family, to the family of Emmett, and help that family then accumulate wealth and grow and increase, their net worth. So we talked a little bit, Priscilla, about a civil case that you were looking at trying to form. So can you talk a little bit about that? And because, I want to see you guys get whatever we can.
We sure do. We done made a calls to a couple of attorneys, and we could talk about that offline, but we want y'all to win.
We're going to do that. Yeah. But
we definitely want to talk about that offline.
Okay.
Right now it's in the midst because we're setting up meetings with the Justice Department.
Okay.
With this new information.
So is that the Mississippi DOJ or is that the federal DOJ?
The federal DOJ.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yes.
I believe they're going at the top. There's no more playing around. That critical race theory. Here we come. Y'all want some critical? We'll take it to y'all.
Amen.
We're gonna bring that bull on Wall Street.
Amen.
To y'all.
Amen. So that's Merrick Garland, right? That's right.
DOJ. Yeah, that's the charge.
Okay. So I just want to make sure, because we like to have names and we like to know the people that we need to be pressuring and that we need to be holding accountable. So please keep us informed how that goes, Priscilla. Behind the scenes we can talk and about whatever we need to, so we can keep the pressure up and keep the heat on them to, they should be moving something here, because this case should not be closed. It should be open. I'm hearing there's a witness. There's still somebody who is culpable alive, and we need justice. That's what this is about.
There's also like all of these sort of admissions that have happened over the course of time.
That's right.
And so I guess the court says that those things are hearsay, but how is it that the court and the Department of Justice does not aggregate the sources of those informations? Because there are different things that have been published over time, published in newspapers. I know in the killing of Emmett with Davis Hook, he went into depth with a lot of the news articles that were happening like during the 50s and during that time. And so it seems like there's a paper trail, which also makes this very, very frustrating.
Yeah. A paper trail that they're trying to cover up, sounds like.
But what's interesting about this case? There were groups of men in that vehicle that night. There was Leslie Midle, J.W.'s brother.
Mm-hmm.
There was Melvin Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
another individual, according to the FBI report, that was there when they were beating Emmett. Told by a testimony from J.W. Midle.
Mm-hmm.
There was Elmer Kimball. So, and then there were rumors of a congregation
A whole
of white
gang.
men in the book.
Yeah, a gang of white
Huh?
men
Whole
for
gang
this
of
young
white
for
men.
this
Yes,
young boy. Yeah.
yes, yes. So now you have to be curious of, was this a Klan thing that why Emmett was murdered? Was this a group? Was this another black person that they had gotten, and Emmett just so happened to be it that night from someone telling him that he whistled at someone's wife?
Mm-hmm.
You have to consider all of that. Was this a KKK thing happening the night that Emmett was murdered? Because you have these men placed there, but these men were never brought to trial,
Mm-hmm.
never brought to court,
Yeah.
never interviewed. Why?
And we know, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to. We know it was a Klan lynching. We know it was a white citizens council's lynching, because the white citizens council was a leaseholder of the building. No one knows. No one ever asked you. Even in that FBI report that we sent you guys that you can share, it's full of redactions, and so we feel there's no reason to have redactions
Yes.
on the FBI file for the lynching of Emmett Till.
Yeah.
Let us see the unredacted version, and then we can continue to put all the pieces together. Follow the money.
That's right.
Right.
Follow the money.
Let's talk about the money real quick, Priscilla, because like I said, I can't turn my TV on right now without seeing something on TV or a movie about Emmett Till, about Mamie. It seems to be, the most kind of visibility that I've seen about this case in my lifetime. So talk to me about, because I know you've provided some content. I know you've been in touch with some folks, but you also talked about some of the exploitation that's happening of this story and of your family. So I want to make sure that we're calling out any bad actors in film and TV and any bad productions that have come down and promised you something and not followed through, et cetera.
Because life rights is a legal thing.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, I had an experience back in 2007. Keith Beauchamp had given Devery Anderson, whose book, the movie, The Women of Movement, is actually off. His book, they're using his book for production.
Mm-hmm.
And he had come here in 2007 as a historian. Never about he was writing a book, he was doing a film. And, we sat there and he was interested in my family. And like I said, Keith gave him my number to contact me because he was coming to Mississippi and he was so interested in the history of Mississippi, and he wanted to meet a relative of Emmett Till's family. Like he said, he was this history buff. So he led me to believe that he was genuine, asking questions about my family. So when I went, I took pictures. I was kind of like showing him and proving to him about my family's history to Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were sitting there, he says, I collect artifacts and I just love history. I just love this information about your family, and I want to keep in touch with you and see what's going on with you all. And he said, can I make a copy of some of your pictures and stuff? I said, yeah, sure. And he said, and I'm going to keep in contact with you, and you don't have to worry about these going out anywhere. This was 2007.
Okay.
Well, 2015, they rebuilt the Sumner courthouse in Sumner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there. And when Deborah was there, I never knew he had written a book. My cousin, Deborah Watts, and Erica Gordon, we had driven there together. And I was the driver and my Aunt Laura. And they said, Deborah Anderson had written a book. And I said, what? They said, yeah, he's got all our family stuff in there. And I'm thinking, and I didn't want to say anything to them about what he may have had in the book. When I watched The Women of Movement, I seen my pictures.
You saw pictures you had shared with him.
I saw pictures that I shared with him that he did not get from anyone else. And then back 2 years ago, when he was talking about he was going to do a feature with HBO, and I texted him. I said, "Well, what about my family material?" He said, "I used them in the book. You were great to hang out with." I never gave him permission to use any of that. Didn't know he was doing a book. Didn't know he was doing a film. It's 2022. He's put a book together and he's doing a movie. So when I reached out to him on Christmas Eve, he told me it's not his responsibility that I've known Emmett, people that claim to know Emmett that never met him claim to be in so much pain. It's not his responsibility how I feel, what I need to feel like. Anyway, wait a minute.
Go ahead, Priscilla.
Anyway, the stuff and the things that he got from me, it's old news. He could have got that from anywhere. But it was new news when he got it from me in 2007. Got it from you.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry that happened to you, and honestly, we have conversations a lot as reparationists, as people who talk to legislators, as people that have to go into the public and engage our Black community about reparations and what's happening in the state and what's happening federally. And I say very often to people, reparations is about economics and business. It's not about morality or feelings, because, the slave industry is immoral. What has happened to you in terms of using those pictures is immoral. And so, that has to be the punchback has to be an economic punchback, because then we can stop talking about my feelings.
Absolutely.
And Mamie was here in 2002. May of 2002 for the reparations event. She was actually pushing reparations for Blacks here in Mississippi, in the southern state.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
go ahead.
The relationship that Priscilla and I really had to earn that trust from her. And I'm so grateful that she chose to trust me. But not only that, we filled out and signed an agreement, an NDA, with each other.
Yeah.
My story is my story. Your story is your story. And justice is justice.
Absolutely.
And what we want is justice.
That's right. That's
family,
what we want for you.
So what we're calling for is the family to unite, and like-minded people to unite for one thing: justice. We want Carolyn Bryant to be brought on a civil case.
Yep.
So that she can tell any and everything that she knows. We want Mr. Hill to be questioned under oath, and we want him to tell any and everything that he knows. That's what we're calling for the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department to do. Okay. And not to try to pick the family apart, to ask this entity of the family that might have been out there and this other entity of the family and divide them. Yeah. We want the family to come together for justice. If that's what they want. That's what Priscilla wants.
So how do we get our viewers to make donations to your foundation? I'm heartbroken for you all.
Yeah, I'm mad.
Really
I'm sitting here steaming. I'm mad because he was lynched in life, and what I'm hearing is his legacy is being lynched.
Yes, it is. By those, and the only thing they tell me when I confront them and ask them, "Hey, what you doing?" And they'll say, "Won't you just go write a book or do a movie or do such and so?" Right. And I'm like, "But this is my family. We never received justice. You got this woman still alive, and now her family are out becoming law enforcement with these racist tendencies, and you don't know who is who if we don't allow the Justice Department to do their jobs and bring these people to prosecute." Absolutely. To bring these people to justice. Absolutely. That's what we want. We want justice for Emmett. We want the Justice Department to do their job. That's the reason why the names I just called out, the Raynard Johnson, the Billy Joes, the Royvilles, the Philip Carroll, these young men in the state of Mississippi, and we know that Mississippi has the highest in lynchings in America. Right. And yet we still have these here that are still being lynched.
Yeah,
there's a problem.
I want to talk.
We have an anti-lynching bill. We have an anti-lynching bill that's stalled.
That's stalled.
Yeah.
But we got a VP though.
Right, and they email. No, we didn't. We're on the email list for the anti-lynching bill, and so this one brother, who do we saw this one brother said, well, why won't they pass that lynching bill? They're waiting on Carolyn Bryant to die.
Yeah.
That's all. They're waiting on her to die, and everything that she knows will die along with her.
Yeah, they're trying to wait us out. They're trying to wait us out.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That's probably why
they closed it. That's probably why they closed the case too, to wait for her to die and then pass the anti-lynching bill.
Yeah,
no,
right.
things need to happen right now today, and we want
right
society to know what's going on.
Yeah,
we are more in danger today than we were yesterday.
Oh, say it again.
And so the key to the if you look at the FBI report, the redacted one that we just saw, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, right after the movie. Well, we saw it before the movie that's on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against the movie.
Yep.
But we saw the FBI report, Priscilla, right before the movie was released. And then we found out that they said that they brought they brought Emmett to the Bryant's grocery store. No one never heard that before, not even the Till family.
Yeah.
And so they brought Emmett to the grocery store, and then the movie alluded to that also.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
There's an old article. There's an old article that talks about that. There's a very I will dig it up and look for it. Because I know I tweeted it maybe about 1.5 years ago, but there's a very old news article that actually had that in it, and I was blown away.
Yeah. Hey, Priscilla, we've got about 6-7 minutes here. I want to talk a little bit about your other activism, some of those other names, the Otis Birds, the Nick Nailers that you've been engaged in. We've got this graphic. I want to throw this back up so we can see their faces again and we can see some of these names. But I want to talk about some of what you have been inspired to do, and the activism on the ground that you have been inspired to do around this lynching, epidemic that's happening in this country. So please just talk to us about what's happening.
Nick Naylor, he's over in the far, from my side, he's over in the far left corner, but he was hung 2003, 15 feet, 11 inches in the air with his hands inside the chain. And I begged my attorney at the time to take the case. And that's how Keith Beauchamp had become involved with the Nick Naylor case, because Keith Beauchamp, who's doing the Till movie, reached out to me after Mamie's funeral because she put us in contact with each other. She told him to reach out to me, and we began communicating. And I actually began going with Keith on these investigations, these lynching investigations. And Nick Naylor's case, oh my God, we were blown away because of the exact same thing that happened with Emmett's case.
Yeah.
An all-white jury, even people that was around his body was in the jury.
Yeah.
And they ruled his death as a suicide. And we didn't understand that. Then there is Otis Bird. I know you all seen Otis Bird. He's the gentleman that's hanging in the middle with the plastic bag over his head. And his hands bound.
Yeah. He was tied.
I mean, a sheet. That's a sheet. His hands are bound. Now, you tell me how a black man hung in a tree with a sheet over his head and his hands bound, he did it to himself.
Yeah.
And this is my thing. Why are we sitting back, allowing them to let these sheriffs, these people go in on these crime scenes, rule it as a suicide? Wait a minute. We allow them to rule it as a suicide, and they don't have the homicide investigative experiences to know that this is a homicide, but they quickly, and it's to me set up like that. It's purposefully set up to go to those crime scenes to downplay it so it won't go out in society. The world won't know it. Yeah. And see, that's what the Emmett Till organization is doing. We want to have an oversight committee that deal with these crimes of racial injustice, and that is hiring our own investigators, our own forensic pathologists, know when these black men and black girls are missing in these areas. Go out, put these billboards up, put a 1-800 hotline. If you know such and so and so, or you suspect a certain suspicious hate or some type of crime, reach out to the foundation.
Yeah.
And these are the types of things that have to be put in place to keep our children, our men and women, from dying.
That's right. That's right.
We don't have enough of people like me out here on the ground paying attention to. They are actually lynching us today.
Yes.
These names I called out, that picture that you see, this is the 21st century.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to
And
be
then
a
the
protected
latest
class.
one is Willie Jones Jr. He left his mama house 45 minutes. Right after 45 minutes, he's hung in a tree. 45 minutes leaving the house. When she gets there, he's with his baby mama's a white girl who they were into it. And when they got there, it was her whole family around a black boy hanging in a tree. No one has been prosecuted. No one.
And we can't. I
And
agree.
this just happened.
I agree with you, Priscilla. We can't
So
accept this.
they are trying to keep stuff quiet. They don't want me out here. That's probably why I was having all kind of problems and trouble.
They was trying to keep you from
get
talking
you
to us. That's right.
The information they do not want out here.
That's right.
Well, we do legislation.
Yeah.
So honestly, NAASD-LA is a Los Angeles chapter, but I am the co-chair of a national organization, and we need to find the legislation that you want, in addition to the anti-lynching bill, and figure out how we can make this a federal policy. And that's something, honestly, we will work with you to do that. But if people can make donations today to the foundation, how can they do that?
Well, my Cashapp is $ Priscilla Sterling 50.
$ Priscilla Sterling 50. Okay,
Yes,
we're
sir.
gonna throw that in the chat so our audience has that, and so they can contribute to you and that foundation to help your efforts and what you're trying to get accomplished. Because this is not just, as we just heard, it's not just Emmett. This has been happening to us now for generations, and it continues to happen.
And it's all over white feelings, like the law passed in Florida. They don't want to feel. God forbid they feel, but we feel, and no one cares about our feelings.
And we can't find any justice in the justice departments that are supposed to be set up to protect us. So we have to start ringing this alarm bell loud, and we have to start ringing it, often, wherever we are, to let them know that we're not going to stand for this. You're not going to be able to indiscriminately just kill us and lynch us out here in these streets, obviously, and then walk along in your lives and continue on like nothing happened. So we got to put a stop to this. And so we're committed to you guys and your case, your civil case, reopening if we can, a criminal case. We wanted to talk to the Johnsons today. Unfortunately, they had
a blow. They had an emotional judicial loss.
But that's something we want to talk to them about as well, is finding that justice.
Another thing that I think that can happen. Now we could the Tallahatchie River is infamous for lynching victims, and it just like me, I don't my great grandmother could be down at the bottom of the Tallahatchie because the murderers of Emmett Till's family wanted our property, okay, and so that they could live high on the hog and have wealth.
Yeah.
So we had to scurry to Chicago with nothing. Okay, so I'm calling on the Justice Department, federal government, whomever, to come up with a way to drag the Mississippi River to see if they can find other remnants of lynching victims.
That's right.
Vehicles, whatever you need to do. We deserve that.
Yes, absolutely.
We deserve that.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I forgot to mention, that Hardy Lotz represented, what's his name? Dealer Beckwith, the murderer of Medgar Evers.
Yes.
Now, here's something for you from my research. I have strong belief that Mr. Beckwith is related to the Bryants and the Garys.
My God.
The murderers of Emmett. He was a Marine, Klansman, Citizens Council member. Hardy Lott was the president of the Citizens Council that formed in Greenwood, Mississippi in 1954, a year before Emmett's murder. Mm-hmm. And so Mamie Till Mobley, what was she doing? She lost the case of her son. She found no justice, but she started hanging with Medgar Evers.
Yeah. So
why was she doing that? What was she up to? She was going to file a civil suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what she was going to do. But what happened? They murdered Medgar Evers.
That's right.
Say a word again since.
In that vein, where's the NAACP? Have they done anything to assist you in trying to find justice, because that was Medgar. So where's the NAACP or the ACLU?
Priscilla? But we know.
We might have lost.
I'm not the
anything.
Priscilla.
Nothing. Is that what I
I
heard?
hadn't heard anything.
Okay. All right.
Nothing.
Wow.
Just making. Well, you're gonna hear from us some more.
You are going to hear from us fairly soon.
Yeah.
We thank you both. I am actually in a little bit of distress.
I'm mad. I'm righteously mad.
Chad and I research for our shows always, and I knew today was going to be a hard show, and so I really, Daryl and Priscilla, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your organization to our viewers so that they can support you. And organizationally, we're grassroots, we're self-funded, we keep our little train moving.
Yep.
But we are going to really make a commitment to you to work on the things that are important to you. Emmett Till's story, I think, has been with me for most of my life. Medgar Evers' name has been so familiar. It took a while in my development to realize he wasn't killed in New York. Because his name was just such a household name growing up that the full story, I guess as a kid, you pick up what you pick up. But the information that you all have shared is invaluable. We are going to pray on the information that you're taking to the Department of Justice for them to do the right thing. And I think that we have been too quiet.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get some noise made on your behalf.
Yes. That's what I want. That's why I say, let us know if the Department of Justice is not helpful, and if they are not willing to take up this case and that's what we need to know, because we have a president now who said he was going to have the backs of our people. And we got a Justice Department that this president has selected and appointed. So we need to know all the way down the line where he has our back and where he does not have our back. And right now, it doesn't sound like there's any place where he does, but lots of places where he has an opportunity to.
Somebody need to help, because the Greenwood Commonwealth, they promoted or published propaganda on Mamie Till Mobley. You know what they called her? A communist.
Yeah.
Well,
where did they get that from?
Yeah.
That's
Where did they get that from?
Yeah.
Do they have any proof that she was a communist?
Yeah.
Because the FBI, where did they get that information about her involvement in the Communist Party?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the question that we have.
Yeah. No, like I said.
Why would you? So we don't care if it was 1963 or 64, right, Priscilla? When they published that, they slandered that woman.
That's right.
She was not a member of the Communist Party.
That's right.
Everyone knew it.
Yeah. No, that was the strategy, right? Is the lynch us and discredit us, right?
Yeah.
So Priscilla, Daryl, thank you so much for being here today. Priscilla, that meeting you made the trip for me. Having my children here directly from
it made
you.
the trip. He sent us pictures in real time,
I'm
y'all.
Pictures. Yeah, everybody will tell you I came back, and I'm shouting that story from the mountaintops, because I need folks to understand not only the situation that you're dealing with and what you are trying to accomplish there in Mississippi, but also how all of this is interconnected. Our fight for reparations, our fight for justice, it's all interconnected. So we have to fight on several different fronts. We got to fight against lynching, and we got to fight against wealth extraction and gentrification, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to continue to uplift you. So I told you in person.
Thank you.
I've told you since. You are family. Don't ever hesitate to reach out here and ask for anything or report back to us, because I'm going to be hitting you up and asking what happened with the Justice Department. We need to know, we need to stay informed, and we need to make sure our people stay informed. So thank you for that. And Daryl, I appreciate you being here, because you brought a wealth of information too. I want to continue to go down that pathway with you and make sure that we are holding anybody that we can accountable while they're still here, because she needs to see some jail time, you ask me.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday, folks.
All right. Well, talk about starting the year off powerfully. We are going to take a quick commercial break. That was our segment with Daryl Gibson and Priscilla Sterling with Emmett Till's story and new information coming out. We're going to be right back, and we're going to pick up our AB 3121 segment because unfortunately the Johnsons really also had the Department of Justice basically reject that Kendrick Johnson's death was anything more than an accident, and we wanted to give them
This
as
week.
a family
This week. Yeah.
some time to pause and
Absolutely.
to digest that information. We'll try to have them back at a different time, but for now we're going to go into a commercial break, and we're going to come back with Meet the AB 3121
Like
Task
the
Force.
video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, hit the Cash App, Venmo. You know what to do. We right back.
Thank you.
So if you were to bring the black share of wealth at least to the black share of the population, it would require an additional at least $10 trillion.
South Carolina, after nearly 30 years in power, James Clyburn has the sixth poorest district among 435 districts in the country. We, his black constituents, have the shortest lives, lowest wealth, and own less homes now than we did during Jim Crow. Do we not deserve better? Greg Marcel Dixon has a plan to repair Black America. Reparations, reforming heirs property, reinstating the Freedmen's Bureau. We deserve better than James Clyburn. Let's vote like it. Vote for Greg Marcel Dixon to repair Black America, to fix America.
Happening, family. We're back from that quick break. What you saw there, once again, was a trailer for an excellent documentary that the Sacramento team, the NorCal team is working on. ETM Media, Amend the Mass Media. So please connect with them on YouTube. Follow their channel. That looks like it's going to be outstanding. And then secondly, you saw an ad for a candidate, an exciting candidate that's running down in South Carolina to unseat James Clyburn. So we are all supportive of that. Greg Marcel
It's always
Dixon.
good when you unseat a whip.
Absolutely. Greg Marcel Dixon. So, you know, you don't have to be in South Carolina to help him out and give him some support. So if you are in this fight of reparationists, he's about reparations. All right. So
All right.
we're going to pivot to the Meet the AB 3121
Yeah, Meet the
Task
AB
Force.
3121
It was a good week. It was a good week here.
Task Force. It was a great week.
Yeah.
We heard from Dr. Grills this week about how the community engagement plan is going. We had
Yep.
CJEC announced
Shout out
as
CJEC
a
for the work
anchor
you're doing.
organization.
Shout out CJEC.
And so we want to welcome Dr. Cheryl Grills to our show. She is a clinical psychologist with a current emphasis in community psychology, a tenured full professor in the psychology department with, is it
Loyola?
Loyola.
Yeah.
I'm like LMU. Loyola, thank you.
Yeah.
Loyola Marymount University.
That's
There
right.
we go. And so, look, her resume is long, but we want to really get her in to talk to the family.
Yep.
So everyone, please welcome Dr. Cheryl Grills.
Dr. Grills, welcome to Politics in Black.
Good evening. How are y'all doing?
Doing great. It's good to see you. You know, I've been waiting to talk to you.
I can sense that you have been. You know, I can only see myself on the double screens. I lost you all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I think
There you go.
yes, it goes. Our producer Felicia brings, you know, depending on who's talking and what, she does all the cameras. We're
Yeah.
just the host.
Okay.
But Dr. Grills, thank you though for being here on your Sunday and spending some time with us. I just wanted to applaud you and commend you because you have been engaging with us since the very beginning of this task force, since you were selected to sit on the task force. You've been open, you've been transparent with us. We've had backroom conversations, we've had public conversations. So I just wanted to commend you and call that out because it really has been impressive, and I think it's helped move this task force forward.
Well, it really has been
Yeah.
a reflection of being community. Like to read that in your bio, you know, I think it shows up that community component that we see in terms of how you interact with us and
Yeah.
how you center the work. And I think it's important for people to have that understanding about who you are as a commissioner. I know in the hearings that we had on Thursday, you were recognized for bringing in some of the speakers, particularly about the mental health and some of the folks that we heard from. So could you talk just a little bit about why you wanted to bring that front and center as part of this reparations task force?
And can I just add one thing to that? Because I want people to know you too. So, tell us about you, where you from, where your people from, all that good stuff. Start with that, and then we can get into the work you do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I am a child of South Carolina, Charleston in particular. Pretty much all of my family is from South Carolina. Most of them stayed there, and that's still the hub of the family. Although when I was in elementary school, we moved to Boston, my parents, and that was one of the most racist places I have ever been on the face of the earth.
I've been and I agree. Absolutely.
Right. And going from the close-knit family and the very community-centered environment of South Carolina to the cold, harsh realities of the urban environment in Massachusetts, I think it had a very important impact on the development of who I am. When my parents separated and divorced, we ended up, my mother and my brothers and I, living in the projects. Actually, one of the worst housing projects in Boston. And that experience shaped my commitment to community. It helped me understand dreams deferred, dreams denied, dreams dashed, the harsh realities of structural racism and all of that. And so then I committed to studying psychology. At first, it was going to be probation. I wanted to get all of the people I knew in the projects out of jail and into something constructive and productive for their own development. But then I realized that was a Band-Aid approach, and I shifted to psychology. And I'll just wrap it up to say that I couldn't study psychology alone, even as an undergraduate or as a graduate student getting my doctorate. I double majored as an undergrad in both psychology and African American studies. It was the best thing I could ever have done. And then in graduate school, I crafted my own special minor in issues related to African American mental health in terms of assessment, diagnosis, and treatment. Pretty much most of my career, and I'll end with this, my career in psychology in terms of research and community engagement has been with community organizers pretty much for the last 31, 32 years. And that has really shaped my commitment to doing nothing without having community input.
Absolutely.
All of us think we know what the community wants. We think we know what's really pressing on the minds of community. But I have found way too often that what we think we know is in fact off the mark. And that if you stop and take the time to earnestly seek to find out what the community wants, what the community is thinking about, how the community is analyzing the situation, it actually is a more earnest process that you end up with that has greater integrity and validity for the kind of change that's going to be meaningful to those most impacted by the things that we are dealing with as Black folk in this country.
Absolutely. And people should know you're not just talking the talk, you walking the walk, because you were out there at our community engagement event, one of our CJEC community engagement events. I'm sorry, NAASD-LA.
It was in partnership.
It was in partnership. But you were out there amongst the community, and you shared some perspectives with us and shared some information with us, and you've been consistent about doing that. So I appreciate that, because one of the things we're focused on is making sure that from the task force we have open, transparent engagement, but also that we're allowing our community to have their voices heard, like you said, because the process only is strengthened by having the community involved. And that's something we saw with the redress campaign when we talked to Tachi. It was something that was central there. So again, thank you for being that voice and being that, that guidance of community engagement and working, with us throughout the process.
Thank you. Thank you. So I guess the answer to the other question, which is, I believe was, why did I think it was important to have a special panel on, actually, I pressed for a special panel on mental health, public health, and medicine.
Yeah.
Because initially the task force had them lumped together, and I said they're not the same.
Yes.
And if we lump them all together, we're going to miss important nuances that need to be understood as we think about what reparations should consist of and what form reparations should take. But in terms of, and so I actually recommended a number of the people that you ended up seeing in all three of those panels. And the point of the panels and why I thought they were so important is that when people think about reparations, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction to go to the harm associated with being chattel slavery, without being compensated for our labor, with all of the costs of structural racism, on the wealth gap, et cetera. And those are true and important, but they're only a piece of the picture.
That's right.
What we don't pay enough attention to is the impact of enslavement and all the things post-enslavement up until this present moment that we're talking right now on our mental health, our spiritual well-being, our community health, the health of our families, how we see each other as Black folk, all the implicit biases that we're contending with, and the health and mental health impacts that has, and how we, no matter how hard we try, how we internalize some of those negative biases about who we are. In fact, they're more than biases, they're lies. You know, the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. And so I feel like it's important that people have a good understanding of that other side of the process of the harms, and that we have that factored in, because at the end of the day, we could end up coming up with something, some form of reparation that perhaps closes the wealth gap, but that does not restore our sense of our own role in the circle of humanity, that we are in fact a part of it, and that we are full and vibrant people that had an origin pre-enslavement, an identity pre-enslavement, and an identity today that is still informed by our cultural retentions from our original homeland, of which most people aren't even aware. I mean, when you start unpacking it, it's absolutely phenomenal and amazing to understand those cultural retentions. But at the same time, we're constantly covering them up to protect ourselves from being further,
traumatized,
further brought down and racialized in negative sorts of ways. So we end up not being fully who we are. And that has an impact, not just on our psyche, but it literally is shortening our lives.
Yeah. And it was some powerful testimony this week. So I appreciate those recommendations. And
I tweeted like live all those graphics. I tried to capture them, and so that was actually pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
I want to just pivot a little bit. You, along with Dr. Robert Turner, he was a guest here on our show from Greenwood's historic Vernon AME Church in Tulsa. He did move, but when he came here, he was still pastor at that church. But both of you have recently been named as commissioners with NARC, with the National African American Reparations Commission.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And how did that come into, I guess, being or into existence? It happened, I think, both of you around the same time, actually.
So I have, one of the other hats that I wear is a past president of the Association of Black Psychologists. And during my 2-year tenure as president, I was the representative of the association to the Black Family Summit, which at least back then, it's no longer the case, but back then was under the umbrella of the Institute of the Black World. And in that Black Family Summit, I got an opportunity to really get to know and work side by side with the leadership of pretty much most of the national Black associations, the Black doctors, the Black nurses, the Black firefighters, the Black lawyers, the list goes on, the Black social workers, the list goes on. And we back then were dealing with issues around the war on drugs, on the psychological and economic costs of structural racism, education issues, on and on. So I knew a lot of the people in IBW. And so, you know, NARC kind of emerged out of IBW and the work of, and COBRA, kind of they joined forces. And while I was not a part of their original formation, they made sure that the area of psychology, psychiatry, mental health was part of the constitution of NARC. Dr. Pat Newton, I was about to call her by her nickname, Sekhmet. She was the person who occupied that mental health role. Yep. She was a psychiatrist, and she passed unexpectedly. And so that area was left vacant. Because I had done so much work around the mental health issues of structural racism, and I still have a kind of a leadership role in the Association of Black Psychologists as a past president, and one who actually helped to design the emotional emancipation circles and did most of the training around the world to help establish circles around the world. They naturally turned to me and said, would you be willing to serve? Yeah. And there are a number of people on that commission for whom I have tremendous respect. And I really respect what they're trying to do, which is not take up the space of reparations, but to find a way to begin to articulate reparations from their particular vantage point, but not at the expense of other perspectives, right? And so I could appreciate that. And I said, you know, my plate is overflowing, but my ancestors had to deal with much worse than that.
Amen. The ancestors will make you sign up, won't they?
They made me sign up because I hesitated for a long time. I mean, I hesitated and hesitated and hesitated, but the ancestors would not let me rest.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what's cool, and I'm glad you shared that because it's part of our practice for the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants too. We for our leadership and for the folks that are holding up chapters across the country, we actually used to have ongoing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist, but we had places where those leaders could come together for the purpose of us making sure everybody was okay. And we created our own sort of healing circle space for that purpose. We've written a couple of grants in that space too. It's very important to the work we do as reparationists. I'm not sure how much of the Emmett Till segment of the show that you heard, but like I'm disturbed right now. And people don't understand the level of commitment that this work requires and the emotional investment that it requires. And so thank you for that. Yeah.
Dr. Grills, I want to, because you are now in a very unique situation with being on the AB 3121 task force and also being a commissioner of NARC, right? So everybody, all the commissioners that come here, I ask the same question, you know, how do you feel the AB 3121 task force fitting into the national conversation, the federal push for reparations, you know, and I allow commissioners just a chance to tell us, you know, what is your vision for, because, you know, out here in California, we're way out front, right? And what is your vision for how, you know, this task force can influence, you know, the movement and outcomes at the federal level?
I think there are several ways that we can contribute to what has to be a federal response, a federal process. But they're dragging their feet. We could conjecture all day long as to why, and I don't think many of us know why. But I think one of the things that we can do here in California is begin to pull back the curtains, you know, like in The Wizard of Oz. There's no there's no wizard. There's an awful lot that people don't understand and they don't know. That's right. In terms of the harms. So I think one of the first things that we'll be able to do with our first report is to present some compelling evidence of the harms that would be hard to ignore. Secondly, I think that our process can provide some insights into what to do and what not to do, how to be most effective in assembling something like a commission or a task force at the federal level. I think we've made some mistakes along the way in this task force in terms of operations. I think certain state policies and legislation are unnecessarily crippling us in terms of being able to do our work. And I think that there'll be a lot of lessons learned about how to gather the diversity of community perspective and figure out how to synthesize that. I think we'll learn some lessons about how to define forms of reparations, as well as eligibility, or the community of eligibility for reparations. So I think we'll do something that the state can begin to respond to and act on. But I think we can be a kind of a pilot run for the federal.
No, I love that. I love that. And I love what you said. We can learn lessons on what to do and what not to do, right? And one of the things, as I started with, you have been absolutely incredible here in the state of California, being transparent and, engaging with community voices. And, Friday and I and the folks in NAASD, we've been engaged in advocacy around House Bill HR 40, the federal bill to form a commission to study and develop reparations proposals. Now for several years, we've been engaged in that advocacy for several years and trying to get our voices heard. And so one of the things we've been running into is a lack of transparency at the federal level that you have, that is like night and day to what you have done here in the state as far as fostering transparency and community voices engagement. So how do you see your role now that you are a commissioner in NARC in increasing the transparency and bringing community voices into the process, and quite frankly, just, kind of replicating what we're already doing that's successful here in California?
Yeah, I think one of the things that at the national level we need to do a better job at is coordinating with the Congressional Black Caucus so that they can leverage what they know, what they can do, who they can persuade in lifting up this process and pushing it forward. I think we also need to think about how do we become more tactical and strategic in understanding the arguments from the naysayers that are blocking the movement, right? And then craft a way to either bring them up to speed or move them out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that in order to do that successfully, the different efforts that are happening around the state around reparations, as Black folk now I'm talking to us. We need to figure out how to come together. We need to have
I don't have any more olive branches. I'm just saying, take that how you want to take it. I've extended them all.
It's okay. If at first you don't succeed, you try and try again, because the stakes are too high.
They are. I agree.
We are.
And I believe in us. I believe we can find a way to come together. We don't have to agree, but we have to
come together.
Yeah, but we have to come together. We've got to give due space to each different perspective, the pros and the cons. And then we have to do, it was funny, I was listening to NPR this morning, and they were talking about, this man was talking about, what do they call it, kind of Roman Stoic philosophy around, how people handle failure, frustration with not being able to move something forward, et cetera. And the bottom line to his message was, you got, people who are able to finally succeed and they save their health and their sanity in the process, are the folks who say, I may not be able to control everything, but I did the best I could with what I had to work with. And I have to ask the question of all of us, have we done the best we can with all that we have to work with?
Yeah, valid question.
And in that
Yes.
regard, I say that there's still room for us to try to come together
Absolutely.
and work with each other. And there was something someone said at the task force hearing. I don't remember, I think it was on Friday. And I think it was in public comment. And there was a sister who was basically talking about the importance of reparations attending to our mental health as Black folk.
Yeah.
And she had a concluding statement. And I was hoping somebody would pick up on it or it would come up somewhere else in the testimony, but it did not. But she said, and I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of, and what are the values what values are we using to drive our work in the reparations movement? And I think that is a question that all of the different efforts need to step back and ask.
Yep.
If I know what your values are, I understand where you're going.
Absolutely.
I understand your arguments a lot better, and I can, kind of get a forecast of what, how we'll be able to work together.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we always interrogate the values that we have and whether or not our values, our moral compass is being driven by values that have actually sustained us as a people throughout the Ma'afa of the rupture of the life in Africa and the stolen bodies.
Yes.
And the disrupted families and communities and societies to, what has happened to us in enslavement and post-enslavement.
Yep.
To the extent that we hold on to our values, I think that we actually can work closer together. If we're clear, are we operating on American values of individualism, American values of survival of the fittest, American values around, I got mine, you go figure out how to get yours? Or are we operating on a whole different set of values about communalism, about the greater good, about respect and dignity, about recognizing each other's humanity and about realizing that we are each other's medicine. I cannot be the thing that is toxic to you. I have to be, your medicine.
I love that, Dr. Grills. And once again, I appreciate all that you've been doing, working within the community, working with us, making sure that, we have a voice in the room. And I look forward, I was happy to see you as a NARC commissioner because just quite frankly, we've been running into a brick wall when it comes to engaging at the federal level with NARC, within COBRA, with the steering politicians around HR 40. So I was happy to see you in that room. And my sincere wish is that you promote the same type of transparency, the same type of collaboration at the federal level as a NARC commissioner that you have done at the state level as an AB 3121 task force member. So thank you again.
Yeah, and we are out of time. Our producer, one of our producers, she said she has to get out on time to get back to the game. So we don't want to hold her back from the game.
Dr. Grills, thank you again for your time. Thank you on this Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you. I'm sure we'll be speaking soon.
Yes, and with the South Carolina, we're going to have to talk offline to see if you're from the United Martin family, because those are my people, one of the largest Black families in these here United States. I wind up being kind of related to everybody. There's a story everywhere. Anyway, Dr. Grills, thank you so much for today and for the wisdom, really, that you've shared, and you're bringing us into the engagement here with the AB 3121 task force.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Chad, I'm going to take you up on that challenge.
Oh, absolutely. I expect you to. Right? As much as I know about you now, I expect you to.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dr. Grills.
All right. Bye.
All right. This has been another episode in the Can Politics in Black.
Happy New Year, fam.
Happy New Year.
This is how we doing it in January.
We have some heavy hitters. We have candidates coming. We have other topics that really will center what these 2022 midterm elections mean to us and our voting cachet. So we're going to use everything that we have. Shout out to Miss Felicia. Thanks, Felicia.
Thank you, Poet.
And we're out. We out. It's been another one.
Peace, fam. See you next time.